Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Serious Strategy Gamer, and we're returning to our Let's Play of Command Modern Air Naval Operations, where I want to talk about our upcoming attack on Kaliningrad. So this episode we will be looking at how can we attack such a well fortified place as NATO. The broader context of this is of course that Russia has been attacking us in the Baltic countries. We need to break through over here, through the Suwalki Gap, bring our land forces over here to Estonia and Latvia. That's the backdrop. We need to protect our air assets. But one of the big issues that has been hampering us for a very long time are these anti-air installations down here in the exclave of Kaliningrad. So this is part of Russia, ex-Königsberg, part of a German old town. Now it's part of Russia, so it's sort of wedged in here in the core of the NATO countries. So you can see, by the way, the just the range on some of these raid installations down here in Kaliningrad, and especially the air defense range. So pretty much most of Poland is covered by these SA-21s, and I think even by the SA-23s. So there's a significant anti-air cover just that is being put up by all of this stuff over here. So let us look at what our enemies are, let's look at what assets we have, and then how we want to deploy them, and then I'll jump ahead a little bit and see how we do that. So, firstly, if we look at all of this in detail, we can see that the Russians have 6 anti-air batteries. They do have a lot of radar installations, such as these, something up here, something up there, and there, but the most important parts are these things marked with a little 10 or 17. The ones with the 10, so this one, this one, this one, and this one, are all part of the SA-23 anti-aircraft system, anti-aircraft surface-to-air missile system. So these guys are carrying SA-23 missiles. They are carrying a lot of them. I guess about, I don't know, what, a number. And they are fairly effective. They've been doing quite a bit of damage to us. They've been mostly blockading us from engaging. You can see these guys have an amazing range of 800 or even 120 miles, which is extensive. No real NATO system can compare to that in the same effectiveness. We've also got the SA-21, which is even worse. This one does have a range of 215 nautical miles. That's immense. That's a lot of range. And yeah, these things are blocking us. So we've got 6 of these installations in total, 2 SA-21s and 4 SA-23s. Now the SA-21s I consider the slightly more important target because of the more extended range. But it's also the easier target to attack, because if you look at the composition of this unit over here, we can see that it does have a number of vehicles, 17 in total, as this little number here indicates. But of these vehicles, most of them are launch vehicles, so most of them are just trucks carrying a missile, such as this. It only has 2 vehicles that are actually carrying radar installations. And it does have a couple of manpads, so these are short-range systems, a little bit like the NATO famous, I forgot the name. Oh dear God, well, it's an Eagler. It's a short-range anti-air system, only a range of 3 nautical miles, so that's pretty much just for helicopters that are coming in way too close against this. But it's not really a threat. The big issues are these things. We can disable the entire installation by disabling its radar installation. So that's what we want to try over here. We want to disable the gravestone and cheese board radar installations on these 2 vehicles, and that will disable the entire battery. So that's 2 over here, 2 over here, for 4 in total. And then we've got these guys. They are a little bit more complicated to try and destroy, because these guys have a little bit more of a nuanced setup. There's one radar installation with the so-called grill pan radar, but more importantly, a lot of these trucks also carry the SA-23 TEL illuminator, and I think this one is enough. It's operating in the I radar band, but I think it's enough for fire control and illumination, so I think that's enough if it's around to actually engage. So that is something that we'd much rather like to attack. The alternative being to disable all of the radar installations themselves. There are quite a couple of those though. I think these are at least 3. There are probably a couple of them over here. It's sometimes hard to tell that. A couple of them over there. And then all of these guys. Are you actually carrying an anti-air radar installation as well? It's only surface search, so these things are mostly surface-to-surface missiles, SSMs. So they're not quite as threatening, but they are, well, we could think about actually disabling the radar installations instead of all of these fire control systems. We did actually disable a couple of them over here, but yeah, we'll see. We also actually, by the way, have one Tomahawk, last Tomahawk from this Missouri class over here trying to take this one out. It's coming in sort of just behind this from the other side of this AA installation in the hope of maybe defeating it. But our main vector of attack will be aircraft. We have attack aircraft. We have a lot of aircraft in all over these bases in NATO countries. But the most important ones are actually over here in Lakenheath. That's RAF aircraft. That's Mildenhall. That's Lakenheath. So there are a lot of F-15s over here. Very potent two-engine fighter bombers. We've kitted them out with the GBU-39 weapon. It's a good standoff weapon. This is going to be one of the most important aircraft that we have because they are carrying 8 of these missiles or bombs, and you can see we have a lot of these aircraft here in the air. I think all in all we're speaking about 20 aircraft over here, each carrying 8 bombs, so that's 160 missiles for you right there, plus a couple of other things. The second most important one is Spangdahlem Air Base, where we have a couple of F-16s, and these F-16s do carry the HARM missile. This is our mainstay weapon. This is a homing high-speed anti-radiation missile, which is designed to home in on electronic missions, so that's radar installations. So this guy is trying to home in onto these radar installations. Each of these planes is carrying 2 of these missiles, and we are getting them online. Well, they're mostly online already. Wait a minute, how many of these is that actually? That's, I think all in all we've got 15 aircraft, so that's 30 missiles over here. And then we've got over here in Nordvarnemünde Schleswig Air Base, we've got a couple of German aircraft. We've got the Tornado ECR and the Tornado IDS, so sort of older aircraft, but these guys are carrying an enormous amount of HARM missiles. So these guys alone are carrying 16, and these guys here are carrying another 4. So that's another 20. So that makes up for 50 HARM missiles in total, and I think that's going to be very good. We also got the Taurus type missile over here, so that should be fine. These are our main bases. Then we've got another one, and that should be Schleswig. Yeah, and then we've got this Polish air base over here. These guys, these J-Saws, I'm not that particular fancy about. They do have a very good range, no doubt about that. But the issue is these are really glide bombs, so they must be launched from a very high altitude, and they don't really have the speed, so they're fairly easy to shoot down. And I'm not sure whether that is going to work out that well for us. Although I do harbor the hope that we can take out at least this radar installation over here. Probably not this one. It's not that much, but it does cover most of Lithuania. Then again, so does this one. But you know what? The more we can take out, probably the better. So that's our most important attack vectors for that. We also got in Spangdahlem, we also got a couple of aircrafts that are carrying the Maud Brew hardpoint. And that's, of course, a very lovely name for an OACM weapon. So that's Offensive Electronic Countermeasures. That is basically flying in and emitting stuff in a lot of in a lot of operating bands, where we're creating some electronic countermeasures. That means we are trying to disable their radar installations simply by emitting stuff. It's not really that advanced. It's 1980s technology, but you know what? It's the best thing we have, so that's gonna degrade their radar capabilities in this area a little bit once we fly these things over. But that's only useful to a limited degree. So that's what we want to attack and what we have to attack that with. What do we need to plan now? Now, the most important thing in these types of attacks is that you want to overwhelm enemy air defenses. They are able to shoot at our incoming missiles. So we want to have as many missiles coming in at the same time, so that as they fly in, a couple of them might get shot down, but a couple of them will get through, and that's going to be what's degrading their anti-air capabilities. So to get here in time, we must use a staggered launch. And the most important part of that is that Mildenhall over here, Lakenheath, which is pretty much close by, is about 750 miles or 730 miles or so from this target area. So that's what we need to take into account. On the other hand, Schleswig over here is only about 400 miles away, so that's 300 miles or so less. Keeping in mind that these guys, once we have one of them, travel at around 480, that's nearly an hour flight time. Let's call it 40 minutes flight time or so. So that indicates to you that these guys here over here in Lakenheath should launch about 40 minutes before they do launch in Schleswig. And that's fine because, you know what, these guys will be ready in about 40 minutes as well. So if we do wait a couple of minutes, let's say at 5 past the hour, we launch everything over here. And then these guys can launch pretty much just after that. And they'll probably be joining up over here over the Baltic Sea and then gonna come in. We also do have to take into account though, that these guys over here, the Warhawks, operating from Spangdahlem, they have a range of about 600, let's call that 600 miles or so, over here until the target area. If we do look at the mission profile of these things, they have a strike radius of 400 miles only, so significantly worse than what we need to be. You can see the parameters of that basically over here. So they're coming in high, they're cruising at 36,000 feet, and then at 100 nautical miles, they do dash onto the target and on cruise speed. They release their weapon at max range, and then they do turn around. That's an issue because that range just won't cut it. So what we really need to do is come in then with these F-16s, which are slightly lighter aircraft than the F-15s over here, and we will need to refuel them in the air. We do have one tanker over here, that's not going to be that important, but more importantly we do have 6 tankers over here that are circling around Poland, and these are the guys that we'll probably be refueling them from. One of them has very low fuel, so he'll return home soon enough, but then we have about 5 or so, maybe with this one 6, so it will take a significant time for these guys to refuel in the air as they are docking to these tankers and then they are refueling. I think these guys can refuel 2 aircraft at the same time. Is there actually any indication of that over here? Not that I can see. Oh no, you can't anyway, because you are using the centerline boom on the F-16, so pretty much this bit over here in the end. And you're not using these drogue type of refueling points over here that are extending from the wing, so you can only really rearm or refuel one aircraft at the same time. So yeah, these guys will need to come in here a little bit staggered. So these guys will launch early, pretty much. I think, sorry, wrong airbase, Spangdahlem. So pretty much we can launch all of them at the same time. The only thing I'm wondering though is I think we should wait about 30 minutes here until we launch these guys, and they'll probably be the first ones that we can launch, simply so that we can get everyone into the air at the same time. And we're probably going to launch them in groups of 5 so that they are a little bit staggered, and that should be okay. So I'm guessing that in 15 minutes we can launch the first group of 5, and as they are forming up, as they are being refueled, we will be able to bring them over the target area. This is a very heavy loadout, it has to be said, for a light plane as the F-16. It's only a single engine aircraft, it's only a single person aircraft, as you can see. On the other hand, these F-15s, which are operating from a very much higher area over here, these guys are twin engine. You can sort of see them over here, twin person aircraft, so they have a much better lifting capabilities. You can see the max weight on this guy is 32 tons, whereas the max weight on these F-16s, which are over here, is what? Should be significantly less, yeah, about 20 tons, so much less. Right, so what I'm going to do then is in 15 minutes, so at local time 1615, or 1615, we will be launching the first of these guys, and then as the last of them launches, we will probably... So this is what? This is 400, well this is 550, this is about 200 more. So I think we can launch these guys a little bit early, because these guys here will be really the ones that are going to be fuel restrained, and that's going to be a big issue. So yeah, that being said, I think I will put in a cut here, and then we will see as these guys are coming in, are forming in over the Baltic area and over this area down here, and start then to see the attack plan as it's going to develop over there. And I'm very excited for that. So yeah, I see you guys in a moment. So ladies and gentlemen, I've decided that we want to strike at 6 p.m. local time at Kaliningrad over here. We are now 19 minutes to that, so that is why I put in a little cut here and wanted to show you that at 90 minutes we have just in Mildenhall, no sorry, in Lakenheath over here, we've just given the order to launch pretty much all of our aircrafts that we have and that will make their way over there, at least all of the bombers. There are some further strike forces down here. These are not going to be launched right at this moment. It will take quite a while for all of these guys to launch because there are of course only so many launch ways where these guys can start. But since this is about 750 miles or so up until over, well, pretty much over here-ish. So that will take them about 89 minutes to cover this distance. So at minus 90 minutes to our strike, we have now launched them, and that should be fine. So I just wanted to highlight that and show how we are launching all of these guys as we go ahead. By the way, you can also see we've launched a couple of further tankers that are going to gather down here in Poland, and that should be fine because something that we're going to see in the next little cut here. 10 minutes have passed, ladies and gentlemen, and we are now at 80 minutes to our strike position, so at T minus 80, and that does mean we need to launch our guys here from Spangdahlem Air Base. They are about, let's call it 575 or so miles from the target, so they will take about 72 minutes or so to get over here, so we're actually a little bit ahead of time, but the issue here is that probably, can I get the airbase? The issue here is that these guys, their range really is not sufficient to cover the distance to Kaliningrad itself, so they will need to tank and refuel from some of these tankers that are flying over Poland around here. So in order to do that, we are going to grab these guys and we are going to launch them now. They're going to take a couple of minutes to form up, they're going to take a couple of minutes to refuel over here, and I think that's going to be fine. By the way, in the meantime, you can see all of our guys here are starting to launch. It's taking them, of course, a while, but that should be okay. Now, we've got a couple of tankers. We've got these strata tankers over here. They are capable of refueling one aircraft each via the boom, so via this little thing here in the behind, or two via the drogue. We do need the boom refueling. We've also got 4 more coming in here. So we've got overall, I think, 10 aircraft there. These guys are making their way over there. They're going to probably take some time. Maybe they're going to be useful for the reverse trip, but I think that's going to be okay. So seeing that these guys here, well, you know what? I think, one of these guys here is nearly out of fuel. So I think the best thing would be to launch them in groups of 3. So we're going to go over here and we're going to launch all of these guys here in groups of 3. These are 15 aircraft in total. Of course, they're going to take a while to... we could stagger it a little bit more even, but I think that's going to be fine. So yeah, all of these guys are now launching. They'll be doing their job as time goes by. By the way, we've also been launching these F-16s. These are electronic countermeasure groups, so they will be launching their... these guys, the Mauled Jays, and they're going to be circling over here and just disrupting their electronic countermeasure capabilities. So that's something that we want to do over here. I think this guy here actually might come up over Lithuania and launch one of these guys probably towards this direction. So that hopefully is fine. We've also launched another group of Raptors, so they will be over here in Lithuania trying to provide air cover in case they do launch any air attack, and that's pretty much it. I think what we also should do is in Schleswig Air Base over here, we are going to launch our Tornado ECRs. Now these guys also have a short range, extremely short range actually. We're going to launch all of them as a group. These guys can refuel over on these drogue tankers over here over the Baltic Sea, so that's actually fine. You know what? I think we can assign these guys here towards the Tankers Poland mission. So these guys here are gonna... what did you rename? That's weird. Have you reached bingo fuel? No, you haven't reached that yet. You're gonna reach that fairly soon though. Can I make sure that in terms of the withdrawal, if you have bingo fuel, Yeah, so units are leaving that individually and coming home individually, so that's fine. So yeah, we're going to send these guys down. These drogue tankers here, they don't have the boom capability. They only have basically these little hoses that they pull up behind them, which is fine. So they can refuel 2 aircraft each, and they're going to refuel our Tornado ECLs because I want them to come in from the east over here. So they're going to circle around, they're going to attack from the east, and the reason for that is that I would like these guys to attack this and this surface-to-air battery respectively. These are to me the most dangerous ones. These are the SA-21s, and these guys over here are the SA-23s. The SA-21s do have a little bit more of a range, I think. Yeah, and they are pretty dangerous, so we're going to send the Tornadoes in from the east, whereas everyone else is going to come in from sort of the south and southwest. So that's fine. So, see you in a bit when we launch the next aircraft. And we're now at minus 55 minutes until our strike on Kaliningrad. So you can see most of our bombers have now sort of reached the Dutch-German border over here. Our seed aircraft down here, so the suppression of enemy air defenses, that's this acronym with the HARM missiles, are now in the air. They are about, let's say, well, 400 or so miles from their strike, so that's pretty good. And that should probably mean we should be launching these guys over here now. They have about 51 minutes flight time. So let's launch these two guys here as a group. They are carrying the towers, so these are strike aircraft. This is a long-range missile that has a pretty decent range of 180 miles. It's pretty slow, so it's easy to shoot down. On the other hand, it's level cruise flight and terrain following, so it can go pretty low and it will be only seen by the enemy air defenses, hopefully pretty late, so that's pretty good. We are going to launch these guys here as a group, and then these two Tornadoes over here, these Immelmann 7 and 8, these guys are also carrying HARM missiles, only 2 of those, so I think these 4 missiles we're going to use as a follow-up strike, so these are going to launch slightly later. And they're going to be sort of ready to mop up anything that this first strike of these guys down here, of these US Air Force F-16s, I think, which are each carrying 2 HARM missiles, doesn't manage to take out. By the way, you can also see the German seed mission that so these German Tornadoes, come on, let me select you, that we launched last time, these Tornado ECRs. They are on their way sort of to come in from the east on Kaliningrad. They are currently trying to refuel at these tankers because they can actually refuel at these drogue type tankers. You can see they have already, come on, they've already burnt a little bit of their fuel. They should have enough range, but it would be nicer just to refuel here on the way. And that does bring us to the American seed airplanes. Now, these guys do have a range of about 500 miles till Mingo fuel, so that should actually take them all the way up here, but it doesn't really seem to be quite sufficient. So what we're going to do is, these are 5 groups of 3 aircraft each. We do have currently these tankers here on their way in over Poland. I shifted them a little bit towards over here. We've got the boom tankers 1, group of 6 aircraft, tankers 2, group of 3 aircraft, and these guys are another 4. Now, the issue is these guys up here, they really aren't that full anymore, so I think it might not quite be viable to group them in a different way. Also, these guys here are operating from Mildenhall, whereas these guys here are operating from Ramstein. So we might actually have to separate these guys out a little bit. Not too sure about that actually. So nevertheless, what we're going to do here is we are going to ask you guys here to refuel from number 1. And we're going to grab seat number 2. You are going to be refueling from number 2. And then hopefully oh, this is seat 3. Okay, that's fine. Let's grab seat 2. Ah, I see. You're selecting different ones when I do that. Okay. And you guys here are going to refuel from number 3 then. Slightly weird, but okay, that should be fine. Right, so you are refueling, you're refueling, you are refueling as well. That does leave number 4 and 5. So I think what we're going to do here is well, firstly, let's take these seed aircraft and bring you up a little bit towards your actual strike area. Which is probably, you know what, we might come in over here from Danzig, sort of over Danzig, and be ready like that. They will sort of go towards their actual designation first, for their tankers first, so that should be okay, and you likewise can go up over there. And then I think what we're going to do is, these guys here are a little bit behind anyway. We are going to put them on loiter speed, so on a slightly lower speed, and that should be fine, so that these guys can finish up their refueling first, and then these guys are going to refuel afterwards, and they're just going to come up over there. That should be okay. Great. In between episodes, not in between the cuts, I actually did take these F-15s here. They have the AMRAAM D, 120D variant, which has a slightly higher range than our typical AMRAAM, so this typically is 40 miles only. Oh, the B one is only 40 miles. Well, these guys here you can see have 60 miles range. These guys actually have 75 miles. So what we did is take out a couple of these SU-24 spy aircraft that were just circling around in Russia itself. They're now being hunted by these Su-27s, which are coming in quite a bit faster than these guys. These guys are running fairly low, so that they are not subject to the surface-to-air missiles over here, so they are hopefully below the radar horizon and cluttering within the terrain. Nevertheless, that is a bit of an issue because they have about 1,000 miles to go home. They only have range up to 600 miles. But again, that is due to the very high air density at this low altitude. And you can see, so we are currently burning about 63 kilograms of fuel, or 64 kilograms of fuel per minute. And if we were to go a little bit higher, we'd be burning about half of that. So hopefully I think we will be able to make it home. We will have to rise up a little bit later on. Nevertheless, we are being hunted now, so we are bringing in a couple of Typhoons here that were circling around, providing overhead cover over Estonia, and these guys should hopefully engage them so that these guys can withdraw. Right, that being said, I think I'm going to put in another little cut here, and then we're going to see each other when the actual strike forms up over here. Looking very much forward to then. See you.